Welcome to What the Tech, where we cut through the hype to give you news you can use. Today, we're digging into a story that's so much bigger than just one newspaper. This is about the future of how we all get our news. A titan of journalism just made a huge move, and it has everything to do with the tech that's in our pockets and on our screens.
Okay, let's just dive right in with one number that honestly sent a shockwave through the media world. 30%. That's the percentage of staff being cut at the Washington Post, one of the most respected newspapers on the planet. And let's be clear, this isn't some minor tweak. This is a massive reset.
So, to really get our heads around what's going on, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll look at the sheer scale of these cuts. Then, we'll dig into why this is happening now. We'll have to talk about the huge role AI is playing in all of this. Then, what it all means for you. And finally, what we should all be watching for next.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the scale of these cuts. I mean, that 30% number is big, but what does it actually look like on the ground? Where did the axe fall?
Well, the cuts were incredibly deep. We're talking more than 300 journalists. Entire sections that have been staples for readers for years, like sports and books, are just gone. The daily podcast, over. And reporting on both local communities and international affairs has been seriously scaled back. This isn't just trimming around the edges. This fundamentally changes what the Washington Post even is.
And listen, you can really feel the weight of this in the words of the Post's former executive editor, Marty Barron. He didn't hold back at all, calling it one of the darkest days in the paper's history. And his point is so important. This is more than just a business decision. It's basically an admission that the paper's ambitions are being scaled back. Big time.
So that brings us to the big question. Why? Why would they do this? A move this drastic doesn't just happen overnight. No, this was the result of a perfect storm of financial pressures, changing audience habits, and, of course, massive technological disruption. And, it's the question on everyone's mind, right? We're talking about a newspaper owned by one of the richest people on the planet. So what specific forces could actually push a media giant like this to a breaking point?
Well, it really boils down to a crisis on multiple fronts. The Post has been losing money for a while. Their audience and subscription numbers have been shrinking. The whole digital ad market is a mess. It's just not as profitable as it used to be. And on top of all of that, the very way we find news online is completely changing.
You don't even have to read between the lines. The paper's publisher, Will Levis, laid it out with some brutal honesty to his own staff. He told them flat out, "We are losing large amounts of money. Your audience has halved." Wow, the message could not have been any clearer. The old way of doing things just wasn't working anymore.
Okay, and now we have to talk about the real elephant in the room for the entire news industry, and that's artificial intelligence. You simply cannot understand the challenges facing journalism today without talking about AI.
At the heart of this is generative AI. These are the systems that can summarize an article for you, answer your questions directly, which is incredibly convenient for us, right? But it's a huge problem for news outlets because it means fewer and fewer people are actually clicking through to their websites. And that drop in traffic, it's a potential disaster for their business model.
And this really gets to the core problem for newsrooms everywhere. AI is a true double-edged sword. On one hand, it's an amazing tool. It can help with research, data analysis, and just making things in the newsroom more efficient. But on the other hand, it's a massive disruptor, pulling away the audience and the ad money that journalism needs to, survive.
The impact of AI on news it's massive, and it's evolving every single day. We really want to know what you think about all this. Is AI a net positive for news or a net negative? Drop a comment and let us know. And hey, if you're getting value from this explainer, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to What the Tech for more news you can actually use.
Okay, so let's get to the most important part. Why should you care? Why does what's happening at one newspaper in Washington, D.C. matter to the rest of us? This is the news you can use part, because these changes directly impact the entire information ecosystem that we all depend on.
As this whole landscape keeps shifting, it's more important than ever to be a savvy newsreader. So here are 3 simple practical steps you can take. First, diversify your sources so you're not stuck in one bubble. Second, if you can, support local news outlets. They're doing the on-the-ground reporting that's getting cut elsewhere. And third, just pay attention to where your news is actually coming from.
And this isn't just about the business model. It's also changing what it even means to be a journalist today. The core skills, great reporting, great writing, they're still essential. But look at the shift. Now, a journalist also needs to be a data analyst,
a video producer, and someone who knows how to use AI tools responsibly. The skill set is evolving at an incredible speed.
So, where does the news industry go from here? Looking ahead, there are a few key signals that we can all watch for. These are the things that will tell us whether this kind of big reset is a successful pivot or a sign of much deeper trouble.
Here are 4 things to keep an eye on. First, watch the subscription numbers. Can this leaner version of the Post actually get more people to pay? Second, look for new products. Are they launching cool new newsletters or AI features that people actually want? Third, keep an eye on the competition. Are other big newspapers going to make similar cuts? And finally, watch for new partnerships. Are news outlets finding clever ways to work with tech platforms instead of just competing against them?
Ultimately, what happened at the Washington Post leaves us with this one huge question that goes way beyond just one company. Is this a painful but necessary blueprint for the future of news, a way for organizations to survive by focusing on what they do best? Or is it a dire warning sign that even our most famous institutions are struggling to keep quality journalism alive in this new era? The answer to that question is going to define the future of information for all of us. Thanks for watching WtT.